everyone, welcome. My name is Bishop Lafer. I am joined today by Bao Kim, who will be fielding questions in the questions box as we go. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Today we're going to talk about how to gain SEO value with Idx Broker. And like I said, as we go, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them into the questions box. Bao will be taking them as we go, and we'll make sure to leave some time at the end to answer any questions that anyone might have. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing, a little bit about myself. I am the marketing developer analyst here at Idx Broker. I have been doing this for 13 years now. I am Facebook Blueprint certified as well as Google Ads and Analytics certified. So today we're going to talk about SEO. What is SEO? How to use Idx Broker in order to improve your SEO using specific features. Those features being your custom subdomain, submitting a sitemap to Google, enabling SSL, and then using dynamic title, URLs, and meta tags. So first off, what is SEO? SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. It is the practice of increasing both the quality and quantity of website traffic as well as exposure to your brand through non-paid or organic search engine results. So how do you use Idx Broker in order to improve your SEO? SEO is affected by your rank, your page rank, and highest quality pages have the highest page rank. So this is a screenshot that comes from Google's search quality evaluator guidelines. So Google not only uses an algorithm to rank pages, but they also have people who rank pages. And this is part of the rubric that those people use. So a highest quality page is considered to have been created to serve a beneficial purpose and achieve their purpose very well. The distinction between high and highest is based on the quality and quantity of MC or main content, as well as the level of reputation and EAT. What makes a page highest quality? In addition to the attributes of a high quality page, a highest quality page must have at least one of the following characteristics: a very high level of expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, or EAT, a very satisfying amount of high or highest quality main content, or very positive website reputation for a website that is responsible for the main content on the page, or a very positive reputation of the creator of the main content if different from that of the website. So how do I use Idx Broker in order to get a highest quality page? We're going to go a little bit out of order as far as the EAT score is concerned, and we're going to talk about Idx Broker features in the order of the amount of impact that they have on your SEO. So first, in order to have domain authority, you need to use a custom subdomain. So in order to get domain authority, you must use a custom subdomain. This is by far the most important. If you don't use a custom subdomain, none of the other things that you can do will matter. So how do you use a custom subdomain with Idx Broker? First, you need to create a Cname record on your name server. So your name server is located with whoever you registered your domain through. So you'll want to log into your host or your domain registrar. For instance, that could be like Godaddy or Google Domains, whoever you purchased your domain from. And you'll want to create a Cname record pointing your subdomain address to subdomains.idxbroker.com. And you want to ensure that you're using the value subdomains.idxbroker.com and not your default yourdomain.idxbroker.com domain. So your Cname is typically a short word like search or homes. So this is an example of a Cname record, and this is specifically in Route 53, which is AWS, Amazon Web Services. It'll look very similar no matter what your domain registrar is. So you can see here that the record name is homes. All the Idx Broker hosted pages will be under homes.chrismackeyrealestate.com. You can see that the record type is a Cname, and the value where we're pointing the Cname record to is subdomains.idxbroker.com. Once it's been created, this is what it looks like in the list of records. So again, you can see the record name is homes.chrismackeyrealestate.com. The type is a Cname, and you're routing the traffic to subdomains.idxbroker.com. And then step 2, once you've created that Cname record, you'll need to go into middleware and enter your new custom subdomain into your IDX control panel under account and details. So you'll log into middleware and you'll come to account and then details, and here you'll designate that you do want to use a custom subdomain, and then you'll enter what that subdomain you created or subdomain Cname record you just created was. So again, we used homes.chrismackeyrealestate.com. Once it's been set up correctly, you'll get a green check mark and you'll have this notification that says CNAME set up correctly. It can take up to 48 hours for the changes to propagate across the internet. So once you've created a Cname record and started using a subdomain, you'll want to submit a sitemap to Google. So submitting an XML sitemap to Google allows your pages to more easily and quickly be recognized and crawled by Google, which makes them more likely to be found on a web search. You'll want to submit your sitemap to Google via Google Search Console. So in order to get the link that you need to submit, you'll come to Design, Website, Page Templates, and then here you see XML sitemap. You click the link button, and this will pop up. And so you'll copy this XML sitemap link, and you'll come into Google Search Console, which we have covered how to claim your domain in Google Search Console in another video, and we will be sending out a follow-up email after the webinar that will have links to the pre-existing Google Search Console and Idx Broker webinars, along with an SEO checklist and a recording of this webinar. So once you've claimed your domain in Google Search Console, you'll come to the Sitemaps tool, and here you'll paste that URL, and then you'll click Submit, and you can see here, this is that URL that we copied and pasted. And so your sitemap, your XML sitemap from Idx Broker is actually a sitemap index. And so that means it's a sitemap of sitemaps. But here you can see that there are 203,905 discovered URLs included in that sitemap. So now we've talked about authority. How do you get trustworthiness? You'll want to enable SSL. So in search engine results, sites that use SSL security gain preference over sites that don't. So you want to be using HTTPS and not HTTP. In order to enable SSL for your Idx Broker pages, you'll want to go into middleware. In the same place where we enabled the custom subdomain under account and details, here you'll see enable HTTPS, and you'll want to make sure you designate yes, as well as redirect HTTP to HTTPS. To yes. It's very simple, but it's a great way to gain preference in search results. So now that we have authority and trustworthiness, we're going to talk about how to showcase your expertise. And in order to showcase your expertise, we're going to use titles, dynamic URLs, and meta tags for all the various Idx Broker type pages. So your Idx Broker account will generate SEO-rich titles, URLs, and meta tags. This specifically is for your details pages. So by default, your dynamic details URL will populate with your website name and then the address dash city name dash state abbreviation dash zip code. And your title text will be automatically populated with the prop type, for sale, in city name, comma, state dash listing ID. And your meta tags description will populate with the remarks concat. So that means anything that's in a remarks field from the data that's pulled from your MLS will be concatenated or put together, and that is what will populate as your description. And then your dynamic meta tag keywords will pull in the listing ID, address, city name, state, state abbreviation, zip code, county name, listing price, property type, property subtype, and display name. And this is what it looks like within middleware. And you can change these settings. However, by default, it populates automatically like this. So under page preferences for your listings details pages, here you can see the dynamic URL has address, city name, state abbreviation, and zip code. And the dynamic title text has prop type, for sale, at address, city name, state, and listing ID. And then again, the description is remarks concat means anything that is in any remarks field in the data that's pulled from the MLS will be added together and populated as your description. And then your keywords are listing ID, address, city name, state, state abbreviation, zip code, county name, listing price, IDX property type, the sub property type, and the display name. So for your saved links, you can use a descriptive title and description. So for your save links, you'll want to come into middleware. You'll go into design, website, and save links. And then here, for whichever save link you're trying to edit, you come over to the edit preferences. And here you can input your URL. You can put in a keyword-rich description, as well as any keywords that are specific to this saved link. And then you can also do the same for your search pages. For your search pages, you'll want to come into middleware and it'll be under design, page templates, and then all of your search pages are in this top section. And whichever one you'd like, you just click on the edit button under preferences. And you'll see here you can edit your page name, your page title, your description, and your keywords. You can also use custom subheaders to add keyword-rich content into pages. And so this is how you'll really stand out locally. You'll want for community pages, for saved links, for search pages, you'll want to make sure that this is where you put your keyword-rich copy that really showcases your local expertise. You live in these neighborhoods, you work in these neighborhoods, in these communities, and this is how you can really highlight and stand out above your competition. So in any of the page preferences, here where it says subheader, there's this WYSIWYG input. And so you can put here keyword-rich text, images with alt descriptions, and really, really highlight all the little nuances that you know about the community that nobody else will. And so the key takeaways are SEO or search engine optimization is the practice of increasing the quality and quantity of traffic through non-paid search engine results. You can use Idx Broker to show your authoritativeness in Google's eyes by using a custom subdomain and submitting a sitemap to Google. You can generate trustworthiness by enabling SSL on your website. And you can showcase your expertise by using settings within Idx Broker such as dynamic titles, URLs, and meta descriptions for your details pages, search or results pages, and your saved links. And now we have time for any questions. Matt said, when we submitted the sitemaps, it says success but discovered URLs is 0. So when you first submit a sitemap, oftentimes it won't read all of your URLs. And so you have to give it time and come back and check on it later. If it says couldn't fetch, then there's probably an issue with your subdomain. Andrea says, with each new listing, do we need to update the XML sitemap in our IDX dashboard every time? No. Once you link the XML sitemap once, Idx Broker will automatically update that and Google will crawl it periodically. Scott asked, is it possible to make default /IDX/search/condo-search a mandatory sign-up but delay for other reasons? Images, number of listings viewed, etc. So we did another webinar about lead registration preferences that we can send you the link to, or we can also send that link out in the follow-up email where Matt, one of our support representatives, went over all of the lead registration settings in detail. Where was the SEO page? So there are SEO preferences per page type. So it's in a variety of places. I'm not specifically sure which one you were asking about, Scotty. And then Charlotte said, is this session recorded so we can access to review later? Yes, this session is being recorded. We'll send out a follow-up email with all of the links to our resources as well as SEO checklist so that you can use the checklist to make sure that you've set up your account ideally, as well as links to our previous webinars on how to claim your domain in Google Search Console. Pat says, how many words or characters are optimal in meta tags and meta tag descriptions? So in a meta tag description, there is no limit. However, in organic search results, the text, the number of characters that gets pulled into the link description is 180. So you're not penalized for anything beyond 180, but when someone searches for your page and you show up in organic search results, they're only going to see the first 180 characters of your description. Steven Strano says, I use Wix. I can edit the CNAME in that right, or do I need to go directly to Godaddy? I'm not 100% certain, but if you bought your domain through Godaddy, you'll probably want to do it through Godaddy. If you manage your domain via Wix, then you might want to do it in Wix. But I'm not 100% certain on that. That kind of varies depending on where you manage your domain. Terrence Park says, can someone in IDX help me set up the SEO? Yes, feel free to call in to support at any time or chat via the website, and anyone on our support staff can definitely help you set up all of these settings. Noel says, how should the tags be entered? Is there a formula? I'm not sure which tags you mean. As far as the meta tags, The more information, the better is always my best practice. I'm not sure that I answered your question specifically. Joni said, please send all the links you can. So yes, we'll send out every link that I used in all of my slides, as well as links to how to claim your domain in Google Search Console and a checklist, an SEO checklist in the follow-up email with the recording. Kit says, do you use the word subdomain in the Cname record for subdomain.idxbroker.com? Yes. So in the field where you're designating where you want to point the Cname record to, you need to use the word subdomain.idxbroker.com. I actually think that it's subdomains.idxbroker.com, not just subdomain. But there's a link to the setting up a custom domain support resource on support.idxbroker.com that will come out with the follow-up. So yeah, you can use the support.idxbroker.com setting up a custom domain resource, and that'll have all the information that you need there. I believe that it's subdomains.idxbroker.com, and that's the field that where you're designating where you want the traffic to go. So you're creating a CNAME record, you give it a name of like something like homes or search, and then you designate it as a CNAME record, and then you point it towards subdomains.idxbroker.com. Scott says, I've noticed since implementation of your product that screen time has increased. Number of sessions understandably go up, bounce rates go down. Combined with some GMB or Google My Business positioning, no doubt, those have increased. Somewhat organically, my SEO/recognition. I have other questions beyond SEO, but one question in this arena that I do have is, does IDX Broker have a way of adding a default/featured image and template to allow for social media implementation of those links with added benefit of potentially boosted promotion? I think that I might need to follow up with you on that, but I believe that the default image for a listing is the image that gets populated for a social media share, but I'm not 100% certain, so I might have to follow up with you on that one. Steven said, can I get the lead registration webinar as well, please? Yes, we'll make sure to include the lead registration webinar in our follow-up email. Rory says, I get this often, and the pages are actually there. Some fixes failed for coverage issues on site, compadrebrokers.com. So yeah, in your search console, there's a variety of errors that you can get. You can use the live URL tester to test your URL and see if it is indexable and whether or not it's been submitted. And then if it's not indexable, it will tell you why. And then you can make those changes and then retest using the live URL tester. Leslie says, are the services to complete all of this available for purchase? I don't think that we charge, but you're more than welcome to call support, and any of our support representatives will walk you through setting these SEO settings ideally. James Love says, how to change our brokerage name. It is still showing our old brokerage even though we have the correct address. So I'm not sure where. So if this is like on a Google My Business page, then you would do it via Google My Business. If it's not correct in IDX Broker, then you would update it in IDX Broker. If it is updated in IDX Broker and your search engine results are showing your old address, then I would use Google Search Console to request a re-indexing of your newly updated page. Brent Davey says, where do you find CNAME on sites like GoDaddy? I didn't see this up yet. So that would be name server settings, or DNS is another place that it might be. We do have some documentation on GoDaddy on the support.idxbroker.com setting up a custom subdomain. So I'll paste that URL here. So there is documentation on GoDaddy on our support doc, but it's probably either under name servers or DNS. Noel said, will we also get a recording of this exact webinar? Yes, you will get a recording of this exact webinar. Andrea says, does it hurt website rankings to have a subdomain and have listing details basically redirected? If you can avoid using a redirect, then you should avoid using a redirect. A redirect will definitely affect your organic page rank. I'm not sure why you would be using a redirect though. So a custom subdomain, if you don't use a custom subdomain, then you're not going to get any domain authority and your page will never rank. Instead, the IDX Broker page will rank, but it won't be connected to your domain. So you definitely need to be using a subdomain. And then I'm not sure why you would be using a redirect for a listings detailed page unless you're doing like you bought a domain name for a specific listing. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of you might want to call in and talk to someone on support about that. Karen says, is the content in the subheader just keywords or sentences and paragraphs? So in the content in the subheader should be human readable sentences and paragraphs, not keywords. So if you just put keywords, that could negatively affect you. The only place you want to put, you do want the content to contain keywords, and the keywords should be overall 3 to 5% of the total content. But use in the subheader, what you really want to do is use that space to highlight your knowledge of the area that page is specifically speaking about. So if you built a community page for a neighborhood or a save link with search results for a specific area of your city, then you would want to include information maybe about the school districts or local amenities, that type of thing. And it needs to be as if you were speaking to a person. So D. Matt says, is there a blog for SEO on website related to IDX? We do have several resources specifically pertaining to SEO, both on our blog, on our support site, and in previous webinars. And so we will include all of those links in the follow-up email. Terrence asked, how much is the fee for SEO setup? We don't charge for SEO setups, and we don't typically do like a specific SEO setup, but we are going to send out a checklist so that you can go through it yourself. And if you're having any issues, you're more than welcome to reach out to support. And that, of course, is a free resource. And any of our support representatives will be able to walk you through the SEO setup process. Noel says, should they be entered with parentheses or quotations, commas between tags? So just commas. Chris Mosca says, if I leverage WordPress and the Impress Listings plugin and IDX plugins, do I need to manage the SEO settings in middleware or can? So that one cut off. So you'll want to set the SEO settings in middleware, and you really only need to do it once. But if you're also using WordPress and the Impress Listings plugin, when someone clicks on a listing and a plugin and a widget on your site, it will still take them to a listings details page, and the listings details page SEO settings are handled in middleware. So you'll need to do it in both places. And if you're using WordPress, you're probably using a plugin like Yoast or something like that. And so the more SEO content that you can include, the better. So I would just do it everywhere. So Scott says, regarding SEO, as it sounds like you have experience, footer use. Tips would include GMB info and what types of links. So in the footer, I would include links to your most popular pages, like any community page you're using, any save link you're using, link to a search page, and also a link to a human readable sitemap, which Idx Broker provides both an HTML sitemap and an XML sitemap. So the XML sitemap is the one that you'll want to submit to Google, but you can include the link to your HTML sitemap in your footer, and that's just convenient for people to be able to read. And then also another thing, if you do have a Google My Business page, a great thing that you can do is embed a map with your location, right? So you go to your Google My Business listing in Google Maps, and if you click share, you can choose the embed code and then embed that Google map right in your footer. DMAT says, is there a checklist for things to do for proper SEO? Yes. So we have created an SEO checklist, and it will be coming out with the follow-up email along with the links to all of our resources. The old Google Search Console, not old, but the previous webinar about how to claim your domain in Google Search Console, as well as lead registration preferences, and a recording of this webinar. How do you separate meta descriptions? So for the meta description, the meta description should be more like a spoken or human readable copy. So for the keywords, then it's just keywords like property type, address, city name, state, listing ID, that type of thing. But for the description, it should be a human, almost conversational description of the page itself. And so there isn't a reason that you would be separating multiple descriptions. It should just be one description and conversational sentences and paragraphs. And the first 180 characters are the most important, but there is no limit. And then Kit Godwin said, if we have more than one domain, should we redirect or create a whole new site? So it's not recommended to use more than one domain. And I guess I would ask in that situation, what are the domains for? Is it because you're trying to target a specific area within the same city, or are you like span multiple cities? I think that I would probably just use one domain and then create specific community pages or save searches for the sub areas but it's definitely not recommended to use multiple domains because you will just kind of muddy the water as far as your domain authority. Does your subdomain name affect the SEO? No, it does not affect the SEO. Whatever you choose will rank, but just don't change it. So once you set it once, you want to make it so it's something that people will easily remember. So homes dot or search dot, something like that. And then once it's set, leave it alone. Andrea said, is there a way to add meta tags / descriptions to each listing in the IDX listings area? Or is that pulled from WordPress somehow? So in a listings details page, I'm not sure I understand your question. Is there a way to add meta tags / descriptions to each listing in the IDX listings area? So you'll set for the meta tags and descriptions are dynamically populated per listing. And so you'll create your settings under the listing details page preferences, and each individual listing, the meta tag and description will be dynamically populated. So you don't have to type like what the actual listing address is. Instead, you just say that I want to use the variable or the value of the listing address in the tag and in the description and in the URL, and that will just be dynamically populated. Robert says, am I the one who's going to design your site? No, it won't be me. However, our support staff is very, very knowledgeable, and anyone on our support staff will be more than capable of walking you through all of this and getting you all set up. Candy asks, should www be used in this subdomain name? No. You want to make it something very specific. So www would just go to your actual domain name. You need to use something unique, easily rememberable for your subdomain. So homes or search are probably the most popular. Yes. So search.candycravens.com. Yes. So when someone goes to www.candycravens.com, they'll land on your homepage. And then once they perform a search, all of the IDX Broker hosted pages will live under search.candycravens.com. So like search.candycravens.com/community or search.candycravens.com/listing/ the address, city, state, listing ID. Robert says, does this come with the standard home package for 500 and 170? Yes. All of these settings are included. Yeah, it looks like Bow jumped on that too. So, but yes, all of our packages include the default setup, and any of our support representatives can help you get set up. Leslie says, this was great. Thank you. No, thank you all for joining me. And I appreciate you taking time out of your day. James says, what is the number to call for support? The number is 1-800-421-9668. And when someone answers the phone, just tell them that you're looking for help with your SEO settings. All right. Thank you all again. Remember, there will be a follow-up email that includes all the links to the resources, our previous webinars on Google Search Console and lead registration preferences, as well as a recording to this webinar and an SEO checklist. So thank you all again for taking time out of your day, and have a great week.